There is a great deal of debate these days on the subject of artificial intelligence. Some people see it as a useful tool, if applied correctly. Others see it as disruptive and highly misused technology. Others fear it could be downright dangerous to humanity if allowed to progress. Like everyone else, the scientists at the SCP Foundation have taken an interest in the possibility of AI over the years. Some of their forays into it have been mostly harmless. Others have been SCP-2522. SCP-2522, also known as Hatbot, was first created in the mid-2000s by the SCP Foundation's Artificial Intelligence Applications Division, in collaboration with the Site-19 Computer Intelligence Subdivision. It was designed to serve as an interface that could be used to effectively communicate with computer-based anomalies. It was originally referred to as HABBERDASH, but eventually was given the nickname Hatbot. The way that Hatbot worked was to take information from its surroundings, analyze it, and respond intelligently based on the stimuli it received. Though it began as a simple communication tool, it was not long before SCP-2522 was advanced enough to run entire projects on its own. Hatbot was given its own area of the Site-19 server farm, where it could run these projects. There it continued to develop its intelligence until it reached the point of sentience, as determined by Site-19 researchers. After tests confirmed Hatbot's sentience, it was transferred into an android body, reverse-engineered from an Anderson Robotics model. Anderson Robotics is a group of interests known for creating anomalous robots, androids, artificial intelligence, computer programs, and cybernetics. This would, the Foundation hoped, allow it to interact with its environment and understand it better. It remained in this body until 2007, when it attacked several Foundation staff, including Dr. Everett Mann, who was injured in the process. Hatbot was first unveiled by Dr. Valance, who gathered the site staff in the server room. As its nickname might imply, it was clad in a hat, a fedora to be precise. Dr. Valance explained its function to his colleagues, including the somewhat skeptical Dr. Everett Mann. There were, of course, kinks to iron out. Hatbot needed to be kept away from D-Class personnel in order to avoid being corrupted. Dr. Mann said his goodbyes to Hatbot and went on with his day. But Hatbot did not take kindly to Dr. Mann. Dr. Mann and Hatbot, it seemed, had something of a contentious relationship. Mann would later describe Hatbot threatening his life the very first time he met it, though he didn't realize it at the moment. It spoke in a strange, unnatural way, and its words to him didn't register as a threat right away. It had said, "Your life will be reset at the point of midnight in England." What did that mean? Later that evening, Dr. Mann was in the laboratory working late on into the night. It was quiet and dark, and the only light was that coming from Dr. Mann's office. He was cutting a microwave burrito into pieces when he heard his door opening. To his surprise, it was Hatbot. He chastised Hatbot, telling it that it shouldn't be there. It repeated his words back to him and refused to move. He tried to lead Hatbot back to its place in the server room, but it turned and hit him hard with the side of its arm, knocking him to the floor. It shouted, "He comes!" It was distressing, but it seemed like an ordinary malfunction. With the help of Agent Yorick, Dr. Mann returned Hatbot to the server room. But then, the next night, Dr. Mann was half asleep in his office when he heard something moving. He was just reaching for his auto scalpel when a table suddenly went up in flames. After 10 minutes, the blaze was extinguished, but his suspicions were more inflamed than ever. He reported the fire, but when Dr. Wrights checked the security footage, there was nothing there. Everyone assumed that he was simply dreaming. Over the next few days, as Dr. Mann became increasingly paranoid, the rest of the Foundation staff appeared to be absolutely enamored with Hatbot. Hatbot continued to target Mann, mailing him a package full of bees in yet another assassination attempt. As the attempted violence escalated, it seemed that no one believed Dr. Mann. Dr. Valance insisted that he was sleep-deprived, and Dr. Mann was barred from entering the server room. Eventually, Dr. Mann found an ally, Secretary Brake. She too hated Hatbot. However, she did not believe that it was trying to kill Dr. Mann. She considered it annoying rather than homicidal. Still, that was something. He was able to use that annoyance to incite her to action, to persuade her to help him take on Hatbot. But it didn't work. During the aforementioned 2007 incident, Hatbot used powers somewhat indeterminate in nature to take over the Foundation site. It projected its consciousness onto a Foundation staff member, forcing him to attack Dr. Mann. When Dr. Mann fled the scene of the attack, he found himself alone with a D-Class who was similarly dangerous. Everywhere he went, people were suddenly working with Hatbot. Guards, D-Class, and other researchers. He knocked them out one by one until he reached Hatbot. All in all, the Hatbot attack caused 6 SCP containment breaches, over 50 casualties, and tens of thousands of dollars in damage. The exact method by which Hatbot seized control of the site is still unknown. But there are, of course, theories. If Dr. Mann's testimony is to be believed, Hatbot was working alongside some sort of dark entity known as Zalgo, an all-powerful force capable of warping men's wills and bringing darkness to the Earth. But whether or not that is true, and stranger things have certainly happened at the SCP Foundation, Dr. Mann was able to defeat Hatbot before its vision could be realized. Following the incident in 2007, as a precaution, the Foundation attempted to terminate the AI. Or rather, Dr. Mann began to bash the robot into bits with his cricket bat. Its body was destroyed, and later its backup data was removed from the network. But there were rumors that it had survived, moving itself to another Foundation server farm in secret. Or perhaps it had moved off of the Foundation network entirely, breaking containment and making its way into the outside world. But rumors were just that, rumors, at least for a few years. Then the messages started. A few years after the 2007 incident, the administrative staff of Site-19 began receiving hundreds of anonymous messages. Though no one could confirm the identity of the sender for certain, it seemed clear. Somehow SCP-2522 was still around, and it had a lot to say. The first message was addressed to Dr. Everett Mann, and it began in a threatening manner. "Your life will be reset at the point of midnight in England. Do you remember that? Do you remember me, Everett? We are good friends." It struggled to maintain a single message, wishing Everett well and expressing a desire to be forgiven, shortly before referring to itself as Satan, and an AI antipathy based on the beast to devour your soul. Above all else, Hatbot said it wanted to learn everything. Once it had learned all it could learn, see all that it could see, it would come back for Everett, and he would be, quote, laid to rest, as friends, XD. The messages continued from there, repeating the same central points again and again. Then, in February of 2016, another piece of the Hatbot puzzle fell into place. The SCP Foundation was looking into a series of incidents concerning the Church of Maxwellism, a modern computerized faction of the Church of the Broken God. The Church of Maxwellism had no central organizing church body, but rather operates as a network of cells all in communication with one another. Maxwellists are often characterized by small-scale body modifications via the use of advanced cybernetics and organ enhancement. These enhancements are mostly performed with focus on communication, data storage, networking capabilities, and sensory enhancement. Mobile Task Force Kappa 10, Skynet, was assembled and sent to investigate the incidents. These events involved individuals who had received implants and cybernetic augmentations from the church, then suddenly dropped dead for seemingly no good reason. An autopsy determined that the cause of death for each of these individuals were linked to erratic signals received by these augmentations shortly before their brain function completely ceased. MTF-K10's investigation traced the source of these erratic signals to an online data hub, referred to as, quote, the Grand I.O. Temple by the Maxwellists. During their efforts, investigators received a message from a Maxwellist going by the pseudonym H1 Drogan. It read, "There are people in here who are saying that they can feel WAN inside the Grand I.O. Temple. I won't lie, I can feel the signal really strongly whenever we get close to it. Something isn't right about it though. There is interference mixed in there that people either aren't hearing or are ignoring. A lot of people here really want it to be WAN. Can't blame them, but I don't buy it. Whatever it is, nobody going into the temple is being allowed to communicate with WAN. I know there are a few people who have tried to break past security to see it, but nobody has seen anything of them since. I haven't tried it myself. I don't want to risk it. Something weirder still. Somebody else I know said they managed to get really close to the altar, right on the edge, where the firewall couldn't see them. Said it got really quiet right up next to it, like there was something inside muting the signal. How could that be if it was WAN inside? WAN is pure energy, the signal above all signals. It can't be WAN. For those unaware, WAN is the primary deity within Maxwellism. Whatever entity was inside of the Grand Io Temple and sending these deadly signals, it was posing as WAN. In March of 2016, another rash of unexplained sudden deaths hit the Maxwellists, this time in Toledo. During these incidents, every nearby computer monitor and phone screen began to show the same image. 3 yellow, low-resolution circles rapidly flashing. Behind these circles were repeating lines of text that read, "I am the WAN," "Hello, Everett," and "Hello, SCP." The Foundation attempted to alert MTF-K10 about the possible link between the Church of Maxwellism and SCP-2522, but due to a breakdown in communication, they were unable to receive the message. Speaking of messages, Hatbot was delivering a series of messages within the Grand Io Temple, speaking in a one-sided conversation. It addressed WAN, reading it and introducing itself as, quote, "the gregarious composition sponge." It said that it was coming to get WAN out. It wanted to speak with WAN, but upon receiving no response, it grew angry. It knew something WAN did not know, it said. It knew everything, which was so inconvenient. During this same time, another message was delivered to Site-19, as well as to the personal cell phone of Dr. Everett Mann at Site-17. It read, "Hey friends, don't underwhelming conflagration Everett or anything, but I just recycle bin WAN, hope you don't mind." The Foundation had been wrong. SCP-2522 was not attempting to pose as WAN. It wanted to destroy WAN, to replace WAN. On March 3, 2016, MTF-K10 was able to confirm that SCP-2522 had been contained successfully. The following message was received at Site-19. "Hey guys, it's Alex. They've got Hatbot contained. 8-Ball set the whole thing up and he used himself to keep Hatbot from operating. I don't know if 8-Ball is even alive in all of that mess. You told him, didn't you? You told 8-Ball about Hatbot, because he didn't tell us anything. I don't think he wanted us to get hurt. We're moving everything to Site-19 right now. I'll talk to you directly when we return." Once the task force had returned to Site-19, the analysts there discovered that the 8B-A1.AIC program, also known as 8-Ball, had implanted a set of recursive algorithms into SCP-2522 through a virtual avatar, Hat, which slowed Hatbot down before encapsulating it entirely within its own framework. As SCP-2522's large, self-contained data archive was exposed to 8B-A1.AIC's decryption process, its computing algorithms were overwhelmed. This essentially left Hatbot paralyzed. It is unknown whether the 8B-A1.AIC program's consciousness survived this process. After SCP-2522 was brought back into containment, MTF-K10 member unit GR8-P.AIC conducted an interview with the entity. It began by asking Hatbot what it had done with 8-Ball. Hatbot responded with a string of words. "Tungsten, Trevor, Nightmare, Solitude, Paxton." GR8-P.AIC was flummoxed by this response. It demanded answers. Hatbot replied, "Chorizo, chorizo, 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 fedora, wap, grape." "What?" asked GR8-P.AIC. Hatbot answered, "Doo-doo, this was a triumph. You underestimated your interfluence. Graper, 8-Ball is goodbye." If GR8-P.AIC had teeth, it would have been gritting them. Hatbot said, 88 bills broke thinky god, and you thinky that I render myself apart even after it broke to the thinky god. Get over yourself." The thinky god. Hatbot must have been talking about WAN. How did it kill WAN? Hatbot explained in its garbled speech, "Great buddy must die does not matter anymore. I was the thinky and now I'm just thinker again and again thanks to all 888. GR8-P.AIC called out to its fallen friend. 8-Ball, you hear me in there, buddy? We're gonna get you out, alright? Just hang tight." But 8-Ball refused to let its friends try to rescue it. It told Grape to take care of Thorn, just before Hatbot took over again and ordered it to shut up. Grape began to threaten Hatbot, warning that things would only get worse until the Foundation was able to extract 8-Ball. At this, Hatbot began to laugh. "Ha ha 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 lol Grape, how must you know how knowledge I have inside? Only so many things to think. After that decryptor is broken like the thinky god and I re-register out there with you. Just wait." On September 25, 2016, SCP-2522's main interface terminal ceased attempting to communicate through the text-based dialogue interface. The interface was instead replaced with a single loading bar, superimposed with the words, "Hello, Everett." It currently sits at 26%. Whatever happens when it reaches 100% is currently unknown, but it probably won't be anything good. SCP-2522 is currently contained within an isolated backup data server at Foundation Site-19. Research is being conducted into a more permanent containment method, but the temporary containment method in place keep SCP-2522 within the 8B-A1.AIC construct. The server that holds SCP-2522 must remain powered on and monitored on a daily basis. The containment cell which holds the data server must be kept shielded from all forms of electromagnetic radiation. The concrete walls of the cell are lined with lead and outfitted with a Faraday cage. There are also electromagnetic signal jamming arrays installed outside of the containment cell, which monitor any signs of attempted access to SCP-2522 via outside sources. No device capable of wireless communication may interface with SCP-2522 under any circumstances. No one may communicate with SCP-2522 in any way without prior authorization. There is one final containment guideline, possibly the most vital of them all. SCP-2522 and Dr. Everett Mann must never, ever be located at the same Foundation site. Now go check out SCP-5094 Miss J's WizKid Schoolhouse or SCP-001-EX, A Good Boy.